So hello everyone, my name is Mario Damiani and with the admissions team of the International University of Monaco. And welcome to this special event dedicated to our Master of Science in Sustainability and Innovation. This is a particular event because I'm not only with one of our professors, Padmaja Margade. Hello, Padmaja.
Hello.
But we also have a very special guest, the adjunct professor and entrepreneur, Athanasios Kourniotis. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello and welcome. So Athanasios has a successful career in the field of sustainability and innovation. He will share insight, his experience, his knowledge. So it will be very helpful for all of you that are interested in developing a similar career. So I think it's already the time to dive into the conversation. So I will leave the word to Padmaja.
Thank you so much, Mario. And I welcome you all to this very special webinar. It's with great pleasure that today I welcome Mr. Anastasios Kourniotis. He has over 2 decades of experience in the area of innovation consulting, sustainable development, smart cities, green infrastructure, and so on. He is the executive director and founder of the company Innovation Quorum, which is a consulting and advisory firm which talks about this very important topics about smart city development, urban innovation, sustainable infrastructures, and so on. Mr. Kourniotis works with several important actors and stakeholders in line with this whole movement of sustainability transition that we are witnessing today. So a lot of things to learn on that front as well, managing important actors and leveraging expertise of different people in order to have a more sustainable future. We're also lucky that he's associated with us with IUM, especially for the sustainability and innovation management program, where he's bringing these very important topics to the classroom, where really the broader goal is about sustainable solutions for a better future. So thank you, Mr. Kourniotis, for being with us here for this very special session. I'm sure everyone is waiting to hear from you. So without further ado, over to you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Yes. So I think we can start with your general experience, your expertise in this area, the role of innovation in smart cities, and so on.
Thank you so much. I think it's a very long story, so I'll try to cut it short. But many times in the question about sustainability as a career, I often say sustainability is never a career. At least I've never seen sustainability as a career. For me, sustainability was an overarching value and a purpose in everything I do. And I think this is what I believe people should see it like. The moment you see this as a career, it's losing its focus, its meaning. And over the years, how I found about sustainability is that it was coming into everything I was doing. So wherever I started, from the very old times where, when I started my career into engineering and planning, sustainability was something that naturally was coming if you were thinking about how you want to do better things. So yeah, in brief, over the last many years, I worked for public, private sector, across different fields, and this allowed me to experience the different sides of sustainability and innovation. I'll come into this over the discussion, how innovation and sustainability relate to each other and why they're important. But yes, as a start, I would say sustainability is something that for me is an overarching purpose, should never be seen as a career.
Okay, thank you for this. So maybe could you please share a bit about your career? So when you started with this, and the way you've seen the important transitions over this period of time, maybe right from the outlook of people to really creating impact. So maybe you would like to share your journey with us.
Absolutely, thank you, Palmasha. I'm a civil engineer by training. I started as a trained engineer, moving into different types of infrastructure as a consultant. Very quickly, I moved into the public sector, having a variety of different roles from, as I mentioned before, about the public sector, defense sector, quite a variety of different areas. And the reason I personally was choosing to do that was to have an overview of many different fields, because in the world we are living, is much better to have a bigger idea of how everything is changing than focusing into one field. So this was the first thing in my choice of career. The first thing I was doing is try to get into different areas and different disciplines through that journey of my career, starting from engineering, moving into different areas from crisis management, resiliency, and finally, what is the development of cities, planning of cities. And cities is a microcosmos, as I would call it, of what is a region, what is a country in a city, in the development of a city. I wouldn't see a better example of where you can see sustainability, because it affects the lives of everybody. And that makes it even more important when you try to design, when you try to operate on a city and change things happening in a city. Sustainability is a core thing, and it affects everybody much more than you would probably think it in a corporate environment. So yes, I would focus more on this over the career, over the last few years. That's where sustainability was coming even more crucial into what I was doing. And again, is something that we will discuss even more in detail, how this applies in the corporate environment. As a conclusion of this career, in the last few years, I worked for many big organizations, mostly big engineering consultancies, developing big urban development projects. For example, some of you might have heard of these Saudi projects that now are on the news, like NEOM, The Line, and all these different projects. And again, this would be probably food for thought as we discuss about how these big projects, for example, begin with a big bang, everybody's talking about, and then they stopped, as it happened now with the Line. It's been reduced as a project, and how sustainability might be relevant to this. But this is mainly the focus, the professional focus I had the last few years, until I one day decided that I should step out of the big organizations and try to make change on my own. So this was when I set up my own company and I started influencing from the outside.
Okay, thank you so much. And when we talk about the urban infrastructures as we see today, what would you say are the main sustainability challenges of the traditional setup of how the cities today look like? And when we say sustainability transition or making a smart city, what does it actually entail?
Oh, this is a very, very tough question to answer, for the reason that the challenges affect everybody beyond just the cities. And I think we have to see it in a holistic way.
Okay.
So the first thing for me, the first thing that everybody is talking about is about change. And when it comes into change, everybody's mentioning about how everything is changing around us. My approach to this is that, considering that the only challenge we have to face is change, is an oversimplification. And the reason I say about this is because change can be good, change can be bad, depending how you approach it. The main challenge in everything we do is what I would try to explain as what we call a VUCA word. If everybody has heard about this, I will explain it. VUCA, I believe, is a better way of explaining where we stand at the moment. Means that the world we are is volatile, because the way that change happens is how it affects us, the speed of change, the way that change affects, whether this is infrastructure, whether it's systems, companies, people. The second thing is uncertainty. Everything is so uncertain, and this is what really affects us. This is where we try to understand how we can be sustainable, when at the same time we cannot predict really the future. And we see this every day. Everything that happens in such a way that we cannot really predict it. So it's very, very hard, and that's a big challenge for sustainability, to try and plan for sustainability when you don't really know what's coming. The third thing is complexity, especially mentioning about cities. Is obvious. It's so complex and more complex every time, with technology, with infrastructure, with more people in cities. Companies are the same way. If you compare with companies, big organizations, the complexity they have, the different product lines they have, the services, that level of complexity is always becoming a challenge. But the fourth, which is a very, very important part that we most of the times we forget about, is ambiguity. And what that means is the way people perceive that change. The way we understand change is different. For different people, the way they see how things happen can mean a completely different thing. And that comes into what I would consider the most important challenge of sustainability, which is changing cultures. And what I mean by this is if you don't change the culture and the mindset of your company, the mindset of the people working on sustainability, you cannot really apply sustainability. And that's the first big challenge that comes with this book award that we are experiencing. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, I think you're right in saying that it's really very complex and broad, and so. But maybe just to add to that, we would like to know in general when companies say that they're moving towards sustainability or they're addressing certain challenges, what are they actually doing? Because sometimes it can appear like a very broad and abstract idea of sustainability, but then when you think of actual actions, they are possible, they're doable. So maybe can you explain the action and like the theoretical idea of sustainability, and how these transitions occur actually?
Absolutely. First, I wouldn't want to focus on the companies. I would like to focus on what we consider as the clients, the recipients of that. Because many times what companies do is they're thinking about how a company would be sustainable, mostly as a buzzword, how we can be sustainable just because the system or the market is asking for this. But we have to see the other side. We have to see who are the recipients of that and why we want to be sustainable, why the company should be sustainable. And from that, we can understand what we have to do. One big downside of the definition is sometimes that is not understood by people. And the reason it's not understood is because a lot about sustainability in the last few years is more focused around the environmental aspect of sustainability. And they don't focus also equally at what is the social and economic aspects of sustainability. And that is what is the important thing of sustainability. The second thing that has to do with, obviously, the certainty we mentioned before, and this is a lot about companies, is we forget that what we consider as good for the future generations, because this is a lot of what is the idea of sustainability, is how we retain the values and the abilities for the future generations, is what we consider as good for the future generations is something we cannot really predict. And this for me, again, is, I would say, sometimes wrong when we try to think that what we think as the right thing for, let's say, 30, 45, 50 years from now for future generations is something we assume that we know well. An example of this, if I try to give practical examples, imagine if we say about cities, imagine you're in the mid-19th century and you're talking about mobility, about sustainable mobility in a city like London. And you're talking about mid-19th century where you have horses and carriages, and the horses and carriages, you need more space, you need more water for the horses, more food for the horses, more, and you have more and more people coming. If you assume that sustainability in that practical aspect is that you have to think about how you make that system sustainable for the future generations, thinking that they might need more horses and more carriages because there is more mobility, that means that you underestimate the power of technology, where the combustion engine comes, where you don't expect it, changes everything, and you suddenly have a completely new technology, and that's where innovation comes in, with a completely new behavior that previous generations could not predict about. And this is where sustainability comes in a different way of thinking it. You have to think that we try to retain some things, but we have to also understand what might be the future, how we can help also and educate these future generations to also think in that way. Because we have to accept that we might not know everything in our generation. So it's more about educating future generations thinking that way. So if I try to conclude that, for me, the very important thing is not just trying to give solutions, because we don't know if these solutions, especially in the corporate level, are the right solutions for the future. What we try to do is educate the future leaders to think in that way, to think in the sustainable way, and therefore, in their generation, they will be able to do the right choices, simply because we wouldn't know what would these choices be in that time. So if you think about a company, and if I try to make it more practical, in a corporate level, the big challenge at the moment is that many companies do it just to do it. What I mean is, you need to tick the box the ESG, you have to do what is required. Is very, very difficult to change the culture of companies. And this is, for me, what is the biggest opportunity, not just challenge, for the young sustainability leaders, is that they can go in a company and they can change completely the way these companies are thinking about sustainability. And this, for me, is the big challenge and opportunity at the same time. Most of the companies at the moment, there are many companies, they're embracing sustainability, but if you were taking this requirement away, many companies will not think about it. So it's very much, first of all, about how the leaders that they will end up in these companies will try to think about sustainability and try to embrace it within the company they are.
If I may jump in, sorry, there is a question from the audience. It might be coherent what you were saying. So guys, once again, I wrote it in the chat. Feel free to send all your questions in the Q&A section. We'll be answering to all of them. So is sustainability the next big thing like technology?
I think this is what we have to be very careful. Is very much in the corporate environment and the market environment, we are thinking about what is the next big thing, like a big opportunity. And I don't believe sustainability should be seen in this way. This is why I gave the example of the 19th century, especially to think that sustainability should be something that is cutting across everything we do. It should not be seen as just an opportunity that companies would benefit from this financially. Talking about technology, and there is a good opportunity now to connect the two. Technology is another thing, and there is where compared with innovation. Innovation can embrace technology, but doesn't necessarily need technology. Innovation is about finding new ways of new solutions, but doesn't necessarily is driven only by technology. And to be sustainable, we might need innovation, but not always, and there is where we have to be very careful. Not always. I'm not saying we shouldn't embrace technology, but it doesn't necessarily mean that to be sustainable, you need technology. Sometimes there is where we have to be very critical about the two, that we have to be very careful when technology, and this is something I'm working every day with, can have a positive impact and a negative impact. It's very much about being critical about where might be negative sides on that. I'll give you an example. Imagine a big smart city, and I'm always trying to challenge even the definition of what is smart as a city. These big, smart, sustainable cities that they're talking about as the next big thing. And imagine this big, smart city is developed, and the next day you have a major blackout because of whatever happens globally, climate change or geopolitical reason, and you have a major blackout that lasts for weeks. That smart city or sustainable city is not sustainable anymore. It's not smart anymore. And there is where the question about technology and sustainability should come next to each other, but both they should be seen through the prism of innovation, which is more problem-solving approach.
Absolutely. And just, coming to the point that you made in the very beginning, when you say sustainability as a career versus really this will or motivation to do something for the world. So let's imagine we have some students who are trying to make a career, who are trying to make an impact rather in this area. So what would typically be the role of education for sustainability, and if one were to start doing something impactful in their life, if they want to pursue this, what advices would you give to young professionals?
Whoa. Hard to give advice, but I'll try. I mean, again, it comes back into what I said at the very beginning. My main advice is should not be seen as a career, should be seen as a purpose, because you want to have a purpose, a meaningful purpose. And this is something that these jobs give, is you are able to feel that you're doing something that has a meaning and purpose. And if you see sustainability as a purpose in what you're doing, and I'm not talking about sustainability, again, don't take me wrong. I know that sustainability sometimes becomes a buzzword, and I'm very careful on these. And I wanted to make a parenthesis on this, Padma, because it's very important. This is why I said it's very important to see what clients are asking as well. Many times I came across clients that were saying, Yes, we want, for example, our project or our city or our service to be sustainable, but we want it equally to be smart, and we want it to be resilient as well. And this shows that sometimes we think our solutions in isolation. So very much sustainability, and that's the buzzword approach of sustainability, has been seen as one single service we give to clients. That's it. But if we want to give them resilience, that's another thing. And if we want to give them smart solutions, that's another thing. For me, these all come together. You cannot be sustainable if you're not using, for example, innovative solutions and technology. That goes back into the previous question. You cannot be smart if you're not resilient at the same time. So that, just to say, this gives an idea of what it means to have a purpose when you're thinking about how sustainability is applied. So it's not a buzzword for me if you do it in the right way. That goes back into what you asked me. What should be the approach, especially from an educational point of view, how students should think about it? So that said, the first thing is they should think first, it's a meaningful purpose. Does it make meaning for me to do it? Because I'm not doing it for the money. I'm not doing it. That's where you start. If you want to do, to do it for the money, you go work for, a financial sector, only thinking about how you make more money, and that's it. But if you're thinking about making impact and making a change, what you're doing, there's where sustainability as a mindset comes in. The second thing about education you mentioned, well, this is, I think, probably the hardest part of everything that the new leaders will have to experience. Why I'm saying about this is because the way technology is coming into our lives, you see, for example, AI coming in, giving better solutions than anything else that we can imagine. The challenge for young professionals first would be that they have to be able to ask the right questions. And I give an example about this. Why? The old educational system was based on the previous industrial revolutions. That meant that you train students that then, when they come out of the university, they're able to give immediately the right answer. That's why they're trained. They're trained into a topic. They know this very well. You hire them, you ask them a question, they do it. Now, finding this information is very easy. The difficult part is asking the right question. I'm not talking about prompting in AI. Don't confuse with this, but asking the right critical question, asking questions, that would be a skill that would be so important. And when it comes into sustainability, that would be essential, because there is where you have to be the ones educated in that level that you ask the right questions, you ask the right questions within the company you make your bosses understand this question and why they do it, your clients. So you start with a question, you start about trying to make them think in a different way. And then the second important thing from an educational point of view would be, you would be educators. Practically, sustainability makes you educators, because you come into companies and role that you have to educate others and do it in such a way that you change the course of things in the company you are. So that would be an essential skill. You must be able to educate others, and that requires huge skills of diplomacy and ability to educate and change the mindset, especially old mindsets. I don't know if this answers your question, Parmesan, but I hope so.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I mean, just I was thinking as you were saying about talking all these things. So basically, I see two important things. One is like the underlying philosophy of why doing something a particular way, the sense of purpose. The actual complexity of the issues, understanding the issues well enough, developing some transferable skills in order to apply them in other contexts, really, as you spoke about problem solving, and then being educators. So I think you really gave us a very, very comprehensive picture of really what it means to be a professional in this area. Typically, again, going a bit more into practical aspects for our potential students, what skills would they be expected to have, and what role should they be playing essentially when somebody is hiring a young professional who is an expert in some area of sustainability? What would the main deliverable be for them, or how do the companies hone talent in this sector as well?
I like this question very much for the reason that I know everybody would expect about me listing a number of technical skills or skills that you need to get into these roles. For me, what would be the three most essential, I wouldn't call them skills, I would say more about values, is first of all, is ethos. And why I'm bringing this up? You can get your skills when you start a job. You can develop this. You can see it's very, very important to start, learning new things. But what will drive your career into this field is your personal ethos, because this is what you are expected to bring out. And this is where you are challenged to change others. If you don't have this ethos and believing in that and believing in these values, you cannot really help others embrace sustainability. That's the first most important value, more than just a skill. The second thing for me would be agility, is to be agile, because the way things change in this world we live, that means we have to be very open, very flexible, and very accepting to even sometimes change your own thinking. And this is very, very important, because exactly is what we said before. The example about the 19th century is, if you see things change, don't just stick with what you thought is the only way. You might need to explore new ways. You might need to accept others, listen to others. That means that you have to be agile. In a corporate environment, what that means, you will see companies that they focus very much on doing the same thing, not changing it, many times fail. And there is where you're brave enough to try and be more agile, try to do things in a different way. And therefore, this way you're able to be relevant, because this is very important. How you're relevant for the future, how you're relevant in a world that is changing. And the third thing, which we touch a little bit, is about empathy. And many professionals now, I see this from my work, I see the corporations I worked before. What you need is people with empathy and understanding. Trust is very important. Having people, they understand what is happening, is very important. Yes, I know I'm talking a lot about soft skills or soft values here, but trust me, everything else, everything technical, you can acquire anytime. What is very hard to get is to get, the ethos, because this comes, with you from the beginning, is about your ability to be agile and about your empathy. And this is what makes you the professional in that field. This is what makes you the person to be the leader that others want to follow. And that's where you will see the difference, I believe.
I think it's really inspirational. Sorry, but Manja. And I think it's probably partly or completely shared by those who are sensitive to those issues, sustainability, sort of those who are interested also in this program. But Manja, I have a question, maybe a little bit more academic. So what are the key subjects taught in the different modules? So also to talk a little bit of more practical skill that might be received during this master.
Yes, absolutely. So, some of the main topics first, the course starts with the foundations on environmental economics, on social foundations, social dynamics. Then we also talk basically from the corporate sustainability point of view. So, topics like change management, project management, so transitions that are happening within big companies. So, that is one important component of the course. The next is the topic of innovation. So innovation in line with sustainability, what are the new avenues and arenas in multiple sectors, that is another focus. And the course also focuses on entrepreneurship, so that young professionals, young people who want to start with business in the area of sustainability, the course focuses on training them on creating their own businesses. So basically we have a lot of interesting competitions as well here in Monaco, a lot of networking opportunities as well for students. So I think it's really a combination of in-class sessions, meeting with experts, guest lectures, visits to different companies, universities, and networking opportunities in the Monaco context. So that's pretty much about the details about the modules, the courses, and like the overall structure of the program.
And Padmaja, if you allow me just to also express
Yes, of course.
my experience from this course, having the opportunity to take the course for the first time, I can also say what I value the most in this course, why this is important. Having been into so many different universities in the past, one of the things that I really appreciate with this course is that, first of all, it's very flexible. And I'm not talking about the flexibility of the modules. I'm talking about the ability of the course to adapt into what the students want. And this is very, very difficult in this type of education, especially with sustainability, because things change. And what you find, and this is what for me was the most important, is you find many, many courses globally that they're probably very, very sound, very strong, but very theoretical in some extent, and they don't change. And everything around us is changing so fast. So you go, you just pick up a course, and that's it. That's the course that is already there fixed. One of the things that I really appreciate when I was teaching is that I had the freedom, first of all, to bring in experience from the practical sector. So for me, this is the number one. I would appreciate this as a student myself. Having people coming from the industry and saying, here is where we did right, but also here is where we did wrong. Here is where we messed up, and here is what you should think not to do. This is very important. The second thing is that the course, at least the way I was also trying to teach it, it was very, very agile. I was looking more about how what the students might need, rather than what I want to teach to them or what is the latest theories, simply because I believe the theoretical context is changing every day. You can cover it up very quickly. What you cannot cover is the opportunity to work in a team and try to develop a mindset and a way of thinking. And this is very much how this course was working. I found even myself, I was challenged. So this is a good challenge for even the professors here, because I end up teaching a course that I never thought I would ever be able to teach myself, for the reason that, doing regulations and policy and governance is always a scary thing to do. Even if you have experience in the industry, it's very, very challenging to talk about regulations and governance. And if I say myself, is usually for me, it was always a boring topic. But trying to be very interactive with the students, try to give them a different perspective, because policy making can be fun, can be a different way of trying to change the way we do things and changing the way companies work. And try to do this in a very active way with students. This is something that personally I really appreciated in this course. So yeah, I wanted to just share my experience, Balmaz, as well as someone that was being invited in to teach, and I found this very interesting in this program.
Thank you so much for sharing about your experience. It really motivates us too. So thank you. Yes. I think there's another question on the same lines, whether the course is technical or more functional. So I would say it's more management and business centric course, and there are some technical elements, especially in the innovation related module, but mainly it's oriented towards business and management and sustainability through business, I would say. Yes.
And again, if I add, yes, it's not engineering. If someone thinking
Yes.
about it, it's not engineering, but again, depending the module, there are practical aspects. So again, the technicalities of this have to come with how you apply something. It's not about being technical in the context of technical engineering or something else. It's the practicalities of these in the industry, in the market. And that is something that this course is covering for sure. I had the opportunity to do it myself as well.
And so, Padmaja, once then you'll be finished with your questions. There's a last one about our speaker that we received from the pub. Yeah, we'll be doing this. You tell me when it's time.
Okay, sure. I think then I'll just use this opportunity to ask one last question. Maybe again a very practical one. So typically, I would like to ask, how does your work day look like? What all are the decisions or important choices or dilemmas, even for that matter, that you face on a daily basis? So just to have a more clearer idea on on like an actual day of a sustainability professional and expert? We would really like to know that.
Oh, I think it's a very straightforward and simple answer on this. There is no typical working day for a sustainability expert, simply because things change so fast every day that you have to be so agile in what you're doing. And I say this, one of the first things I did when I took a new course to teach in your university, the first thing I did to the students was a crisis management exercise. And everybody was like, why do we need a crisis management exercise? Because that's the way you have to think, especially because you cannot think that this job would be a typical day-to-day job that you do it in the same way. You have to think like a crisis manager. You have to think that everything is changing every day, and therefore you have to wear so many different hats every day. That means you train yourself to play different roles every day. And this is very important. Today I'm here in front of you talking as someone that I had the opportunity teaching at this university. I leave from this and I move on, doing my work and meetings everywhere in the world. But this is all about being a sustainability expert. And this is something I would say there is no typical day for a sustainability expert. And I think this is the fun about it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. And, I think Mario has one question, one last one.
Yes,
I think.
so yeah, last question from the public. So what is your goal working with sustainability? Do you wish to combat climate change? And how detrimental do you think climate change is to our way of living?
This is, I like this question because, again, this is a challenge and opportunity. And why I'm saying this is, again, one of the big challenges for sustainability experts is they can focus on only one problem. And for me, climate change is extremely essential. It's very, very important to tackle. And I would say, slow burn. We see it every day happening, but it's a slow burn. But at the same time, we have so many other issues that we should not underestimate. So my approach on this is, if you want to be a sustainability expert, a sustainability leader, you have to be holistic. You have to see the problems that they all come in different ways and not just focus on one. Because if you focus on one, there would be something else coming up that you would not tackle that will take you down. So yes, climate change is very, very essential. Yes, we have to think about it. But imagine this, imagine thinking about just climate change, and then there is an economic crisis coming from, when you don't expect, and this affects completely all your sustainability goals. Take the example of NEOM, and I close with this. You would probably see on the news now that there is all this story about NEOM, the line, this smart city in Saudi Arabia, that for the last many years, everybody was talking about being the smart, sustainable city. And very much the discussion about this was about climate change and about how they tackle this and how they do it with technology. And then the economic crisis and geopolitical situation changed, and the project was practically almost stopped. So this is, again, to give you an example, you have to think beyond just one challenge and one problem.
So thank you so much for being our special guest tonight. Thanks to Athanasios Kourniotis for being here and sharing his meaningful insights for our students. Thank you, Badmaja, for coordinating so well this event. And thank you to all of you attending this online session dedicated to the Master of Science in Sustainability Innovation Management at the International University of Monaco. You can read in the chat my direct email in case you would like to get in touch with me. We will follow up anyway in the following days, and hope to meet all of you soon here in Monaco. Thank you again. Let's talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.